Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the live stream. Make sure that's working. All right, yeah. Okay. Close that out. All right, everybody. We live stream, recording, we're halfway there, and then we will absolutely get started. Where are my little notes at? My little notes. We got a lot of notes.
We have more folks coming in.
Yep.
Yes.
So tonight, the podcast is going to be just kind of catching everybody up on, what's been taking place with me, since my little trip to the States. And, as I move through this, I'll talk about the experience, the Bufo experience that I had on Friday that has impacted me in ways that are almost without words, even at this very moment. I will tell you that I'm feeling funny right now. You might describe it as the tingles or pins and needles. If you've ever done breath work and you get those bubbles, I call them bubbles, right? Those really fine vibration in the body. My whole body feels like that. So I'm trying to stay focused while, all 22 are here at the same time. And, basically there's a bunch of us shoved in one room and we're all trying to figure it out.
So I have to ask, is everyone talking at the same time?
No. So the idea of an embodied collective. Okay, so one voice represents all of us at once. Okay, at some point I'll be able to drill in and speak with a specific one, but right now that's absolutely not the case. There would be so much confusion. I don't think I could mentally handle that. I kid you not. I kid you not. So we're going to give it another 2 or 3 minutes, Kim. We'll do a housekeeping and then we'll start rocking and rolling. 100 degrees in northern Canada?
Is that right?
Are the ice caps melting? I'm being funny. I'm being funny. I feel better now. All right. Where are we at? We're at 66.
Yes.
You want to just kind of get started on the housekeeping and then I'll jump in and, let's not delay. It'll be a full show.
This is great. Thank you and welcome everyone. We're so glad that you're here. We are going to have a full amount of people registered as like 122 plus. And so we ask that you stay muted so everybody can hear and then I can unmute if we're going to do that. And so that'll allow everyone to hear Ken. If you have anything you need to do the restroom, you need to turn off your phone. Maybe I have my cat here, but he doesn't make loud noises and he loves to listen to Ken in the the podcast and everything. You may want to take your animal in the other room, but they do get the healing when Ken does that. So we're excited about that. And we're excited that you're here. We do have some things that I put when we first came in, which is Ken's, his Instagram information there, also his session information, and then we have the healing protocol we'll do at the end. And as we go through it, maybe we'll do questions. So this is something new. We're all excited to hear, Ken, about your journey that you're on. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kim. So just a couple of things on my side. The next transformational healing event will be Thursday, July 25th. If that's something that you're called to, or use your discernment. I'm a big believer in not promoting or pushing or telling people they need to do something, when it comes to spending money. But if it resonates with you, definitely something you're going to want to check out. And the reason I say that is by the time we get done with this podcast, it may be clear to you why next Thursday will be very different than the other things that you previously experienced. As always, thank you for showing up. Thank you for following me, supporting me. I appreciate you. And, anytime I have these, events, these podcasts, I always do a free healing gift at the end. So tonight, the team tells me that they're going to be healing the body to bring your soul more into alignment with your human purpose and mission. So the things that are preventing you from being the best version of you will be worked on. It'll be different. It'll be different tonight. There'll be no guided visualization. It'll just be light language. I'm suspecting for about 10 minutes or so. Everything has shifted. And I mean shifted. The reboot happened. So let me just finish with my housekeeping and then we'll jump into it. I'm tentatively scheduled to be in person in Sarasota, Florida, September 6th through 10th at the Cosmic Center. I'll be publishing the details on the website next week. And then, so if you're in the area and you want an in-person session, you're going to want to get them sooner than later. So obviously, if you're ready to heal and honestly ready, book your session. I will tell you, Friday evening, I will be adjusting the price of the 25-minute session up to $210. And I'm having to do that because of a podcast show that I'm on August 7th. It's called Beyond the Ordinary with John Burroughs. And with that, they actually have some requirements on pricing and things like that. If you're considering a session with me, I highly recommend you book it before that podcast. There's a strong probability that my sessions will be booked out a month or two shortly after that is done. So just, use your own discernment, follow your heart, but I want to bring you that, to your attention. There's a lot of us on the show tonight. There's going to be a lot of questions. Kim will try to interrupt me. I say try to. She will interrupt me when there's something that she wants to bring to my attention. Otherwise, we'll probably save a lot of the questions to the end. So yeah, if you guys are ready, I'm ready. And Kim, I'm actually looking at my script. I'm not looking at the chat window or anything. So feel free to interrupt me as needed. Okay.
Okay, sounds great. I'm excited I get to interrupt you. I just put in there the session information, the email again, because sometimes it gets lost, when people put things in. I have to say, though, thank you so much for the beautiful comments that folks are putting in there. And yes, Trish, I'm like ready to go to Tulum. Tulum. I'm like, yes, I'm ready to go. So thanks.
That's fantastic. So, the topic of tonight's show is kind of the term, the reboot happened. And for those of you that aren't aware, let me just take 60 seconds here and fill you in, the backstory. So 2018 near-death experience. And that near-death experience brought in 13 souls into my physical body. At that time, I was known what was called a soul braid. And since then, more have stepped in. In December just passed, my higher self stepped into my body and he told me they are doing a reboot of me, a reset in life. And what that basically meant is I had to leave everything I know. All right. The beautiful, loving wife, a perfect marriage. And I do say that very honestly and sincerely. Everything I own, friends, family, everything, and moved to Mexico. The details of that are in the previous podcast if you're interested in that. So what was the reboot? Well, the reboot finally took place Friday at about 12:45, they're telling me, in the afternoon. And that was the Bufo experience, which I'll fill you in towards the end because it's such a potent event. In whatever I'm going through, it was an absolute game changer. And now the team is clearly talking to me. Anything I need, I ask the questions. It's incredible. It's almost without words. So I'm lit up right now. And when I say lit up, there's so much energy flowing through my body. It's almost unsustainable. Unsustainable to the point where I did a healing this morning or this afternoon. First one I've done in a while. My team has literally cleared my schedule for this. And, it's a 20-minute healing. It should have been pretty easy. And I nearly passed out in it because how much was flowing through me. So grounding doesn't seem to help. Even a shower will take it away for a little bit, but then it's right back. And even before we started the podcast, I was having a difficult time talking. So we'll see how this moves through. So yeah, if you see me looking funny, acting funny, sounding funny, this is what's happening. So just to pick up where I left off last time, I went back to the States for about 5 weeks, and that was a really long trip. So I call it my retox trip, meaning that I spent all that time detoxing from Mexico for Yalapa, right? Lost, God, I don't know, 20, 25 pounds. I don't even know what it was, right? Vegan, healthy. And then about a week before we left, in comes the chocolate, right? Here comes the energy drinks. Bad decisions. And I loved it. Loved every minute of it. But now that I'm back in Mexico, the detox has taken place in a very heavy way. They had me back on a vegan diet. And, vegan by choice, actually. I actually do enjoy it, even though I'm not required to be on it after I get through this shift. Wow, I just totally blanked out what they just did to me. So, the detoxing, the choices in food here in Mexico are very different. Everything's raw, everything's healthy, right? Nothing's prepackaged. Whereas when I was in the States, everything came from a can, even if it was in the kitchen, right? So very different. Incredible amount of walking, where in the States, you're not doing the walking, right? If you don't have a car or a taxi, you're probably not going to many places. Here, it's walking everywhere. So I think I've got like 20,000 steps in on some days, just to say I'm counting my steps now. So that to be said, Mexico is not my permanent home. I will be back to the U.S. Before mid-January to reestablish and to move forward. The reboot will have been completed by a couple months at that point, and everything rocking and rolling. So when I was in the States, probably the first week of June or so, I got the message from a good friend of mine, Sheila Seppi. Her team stepped in and says, "Hey, you need to go to the Redwoods." I've never been to Northern California, right? And it certainly wasn't on my mind, but they told me I needed to spend 3 days camping under the Redwoods by myself and to stay in the tent. So basically it's 3 days with myself. Have you guys tried that? Not so much fun, is it? So, but I did. And I laid there for 3 days, did my best, and I really did do my best. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about monkey mind? Oh my God, I couldn't stop. I literally could not stop this monkey mind. It was such an awareness of how much I talked to myself about dumb stuff. Just the dumb stuff, right? Never had realized that. I had never tried meditating like they say you should either. And I'm going to talk about that in a little while. But the idea of meditating to find that silence was never something I thought I ever had to do. Because since this occurred to me, if I wanted information, I simply dropped in, asked the question, got what I needed, and moved forward. It changed. It absolutely changed. So on June 21st, summer solstice in the afternoon, I'm pretty frustrated by this point. I'm like, why am I here? Why am I here? And then I start getting the downloads. For those of you who know what a download is, it's information, right? Knowings. But for me, it was just pressure in the head. Half hour, 45 minutes, my third eye was throbbing, my crown was throbbing, and I got nothing. And what I mean by that is they wouldn't tell me what they gave me for information. They told me that when I got to Tulum, it would begin to unpack. And what they did is they showed me a shelf with a bunch of jars and a bunch of canning jars, right? So you can stuff, you put it in there, and you basically save it for later. And that's what was happening. I will tell you, though, incredibly peaceful. Oh, my God. If you guys haven't been to see and to touch the redwood trees, they're soft. I wasn't expecting the softness. They're like a balsa wood or something. It was amazing. And I landed in Redding, and my campsite was 153 miles away. So I went ahead and ordered my camping equipment. They delivered it. But the road that I had to go on from Redding to the campsite, all twisty, 131 miles of nothing but twists. My shoulders hurt. I did this the whole time, right? Incredible. Incredible. And by the way, there wasn't a single gas station or convenience store along the way. So I'm glad I filled up. Amazing, amazing drive. So I get done with Shasta, and I get done with the Humboldt. It was in Humboldt, so the national forest, and I drive back to Redding, and I have a little bit of time, so I'm like, you know what, I can't go this far and not actually see Mount Shasta. So it's about an hour away. So I drive to Mount Shasta, and I've only got a couple hours, and I thought I'd have a better view, but I get up there, and then they close the road going up into Shasta about 3 miles. So I'm about 7,000 feet elevation. Beautiful. But I tell you what, I saw the people getting out of their cars with all their hiking equipment, the things strapped in their boots and the sticks. And I'm looking at this hill, they're going straight up. I'm like, yeah, it sounded like fun. Probably not my thing. So I turn around and I'm coming down the hill. And this is a lesson I just wanted to share with you, a lesson for me. And I get the, the inner knowing. They say, stop. They take your next right. And so I slowed down, and the next right was this dirt road going up the side of the mountain. And, it had big jagged rocks. So even with the rental car, you just had to creep along so you didn't grind out or flatten a tire or whatever. And here comes this old white beat up truck coming down. And it's an older guy, an old man, right? An old guy in it. And he stops me. He says, hey, there are a bunch of hippies up there. He says, they had a 12-foot fire last night. I used to be the, conservation officer, whatever. Says, I would never allow that. I wouldn't go up there if I were you. And I got to tell you, I didn't. The guy had talked me out of going exactly where my guides told me to go. Those hippies were me. They were us. They weren't hippies. They were consciousness. They were spiritual people. They were people celebrating the energy. But he managed to talk me out of it. So, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. So I went ahead and I found a place. I turned around and I went to the bottom of the road where it entered the main strip. And, I stopped and I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. And I told my team, I says, let me out. It says, take me someplace so I can finish whatever you brought me here to do. So we stopped. We stopped. That's funny, right? All of us, we stopped and I got out. And they just had me walk about 100 yards into the woods and do a bunch of light language. And it was kind of an announcement to Shasta. It wasn't time for me to have my Shasta experience, but it was time for me to deliver something to Mount Shasta. I don't know what it was, but I just wanted to share that quick story, right? When you get those things, when you get that intuition, when you feel it in your gut, don't deny it. And don't let anything stop you. I was almost disappointed in myself until I realized it's okay, right? I still accomplished what I needed to accomplish, did exactly what I needed to do, but I allowed someone else to take me off of my path. Don't give your power up. Stay on your path regardless of what those external influences are. So, message from me to you with love. So, Tulum, Mexico. This is where I'm at right now. And, let's talk about trust again. I was living in Playa del Carmen when I left for the States. All my stuff was still in the apartment. But I flew back into Tulum, Mexico. Had an Airbnb for 8 days, or I had it planned for 8 days. And when I got here, I realized, thanks to my friend Trish, that there was a hurricane coming. Tickets were bought. Airbnb was done. I could have rescheduled, right? I could have canceled, but I'm from South Florida. I know hurricanes, right? We all do, wink, wink. Most of you guys are on the call from South Florida. So I landed, got to my Airbnb, and it was 2 or 3 miles out of town. And that's actually a big deal here in Tulum. a lot of construction, a lot of empty buildings. There are so much construction coming up. There are condos everywhere. There's so much inventory. So Tulum hasn't had a hurricane since 2007. Now, it wasn't supposed to be a bad one, right? Category 2. And I knew from experience that this meant when it hit, and by the way, I'm about 3 miles from the ocean, but when it hit, there was just going to be debris everywhere. There wasn't really going to be any structural damage except for lines down, stuff like that. But there was going to be debris everywhere, and trying to get it around wasn't going to be really an option. And the last thing I wanted to do was walk 3 miles, to find help in a country where I know absolutely nobody. And I don't speak the language at all. I mean, a couple words. So I'm wrestling with my guides in the apartment, my team, my guys, my team, right? And I'm kind of like, listen, I really don't know if I want to be here. And they're like, you're going to be safe. Don't worry about it. So I spent the next 48 hours looking for apartments. I looked at some good ones and I looked at some really, really bad ones. But I found an apartment, a condo, right, in an area that I wasn't expecting to look in. And when I found this place, it was a 2-bedroom. I didn't want a 2-bedroom. I just wanted the 1-bedroom. Didn't want a studio, just needed the 1-bedroom so I could, do the isolation, do the thing I needed to do. And when I got in here, the cleaning people were here, and it was busy, and I just poked around, and it was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. And I mean the energy. The person who owns this had decorated everything in here consciously, meaning there's a conscious theme to it, a spiritual theme to it, which, by the way, a lot of Tulum, Mexico is like that. But I passed. And she's like, listen, this was during the first conversation. What are you looking for? And I told her, and I'm like, listen, I still need to rent an ATV, for the 3 months I'm here. And I'm figuring out the math. She said, you know what? She said, you can have my ATV. I'm going to throw it in for free. Just make sure you take care of it and everything breaks, fix it. I'm like, wow, that's cool. I still passed. I didn't answer her after I looked at the place. So meanwhile, I get back to my little Airbnb and I'm done. I told the team that I'm not going to be in Tulum during a hurricane with absolutely no support. And I'd rather go an hour north to my apartment, right, where at least I can call the landlord and I know a little bit more about the area and I'm within walking distance of everything. So I did. I dragged the cab, grabbed my stuff, ran back to Playa, and rode the evening out in the storm, which, by the way, wasn't really a storm. And we had some rain, we had some lightning, we had some wind, we had some trees down there in Playa. But what I found out 2 days later was the storm had actually stopped on the shores of Tulum. And there wasn't nearly any damage here. Wasn't a lot of trees down, wasn't a lot of debris. Almost nothing happened to Tulum. I mean, I was reading the reports, even the scooters didn't even fall over. So again, trust, right? I still didn't have the trust. The team's like, we told you you're going to be fine. So here I am in Playa. Lease is about up. I still don't have a place to rent in Tulum. And lo and behold, that girl who I completely ignored reached out to me. She says, hey, are you still interested? She had somebody else look at the place. And I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. And, when you're in the States and you're applying for, to rent someplace, they want first month's, they want last month's, they want a deposit, a background check, credit check. You know the whole story, right, guys? That's not what happened. She asked me for my first name and my last name. That was done. No deposit. No questions about who I was, why I was here. Absolutely nothing. And she threw in the 4-wheeler. The price of this place was cheaper than the other places I had looked at as well. and absolutely amazing. So I got to tell you, the guide, your team is going to make it happen for you. They did for me. And every moment that I'm here, I am so blissful, absolutely so blissful and so quiet. So there's a couple things I just want to share about Tulum, and then I'm going to keep moving down the list. Ever seen Mexicans drive? And I be that funny. They all must have like this radar. They swerve in and out of each other. I haven't seen but maybe one accident. It is this choreographed, beautiful driving that scares the living shit out of you. And I'm on an ATV. And I'm zooming down the road thinking, my God, please don't run me over. Please don't run me over. Well, Tulum's under construction, right? I mean, they're expanding like crazy. Apparently, having manhole covers on the covers in the main road are optional. I nearly lost my four-wheeler in a manhole cover 300 yards from the cop station. And I drove by there today, and somebody had taken tree branches and shoved tree branches down the manhole so people knew it was there. I nearly lost the scooter in an open covered manhole as well. Wow. Whole nother world here. And the prices of things. You go to the beach, they want a minimum of $100 US just to sit down. So I don't know what that breaks down to, almost, they see about 3,500 pesos, a little more than $100 as minimum consumption, food, beverage, whatever, right? Those are the beaches here in Tulum. If you go downtown Tulum, which is the main drag, and you go into a restaurant and order a burrito, it's about 300, 350 pesos. I don't know what that math breaks down to, 12, 15 bucks. But if you go one street over, right off the main drag, it's 100 pesos. It is so crazy, and the food's so much better. So, moving around Mexico, stay off the main drag. It is cheap. It really, really is cheap. So I wanted to talk about that. Now, the reason, again, they have me in Tulum is for the isolation for this reboot. When I was in Yalapa, the isolation was supposed to happen. It didn't. I had a companion with me the whole time, which was not supposed to happen. And then even in Playa, for the 4 or 5 weeks I was there, before I came back to the States, I had no isolation, and it was incredibly noisy. I mean, I would wake up with my fist clenched because of the amount of noise on the streets. It was impossible. It was nerve-wracking. Here in Tulum, it's the opposite. Nothing but the birds chirping and no noise. So they have me here in isolation so I could be undistracted. They cleared my schedule. I have almost nothing booked for private sessions, and I'm not worried. I don't even sweat about things like that. But what it has done, it has brought the inner feeling of depression and isolation, right? Loneliness, if you will. So remember, I know nobody here. I have no one to talk to. And even if I did, I wouldn't speak their language very well. It'd be choppy. And my team told me I was not going to meet anybody to hang out with while I'm in Tulum either. So this realization, has been setting in, and it hit me pretty hard this past Saturday. And I'm going to talk about that towards the end of, the last little segment there. But now they're like, listen, now that you got all this time, you need to learn to meditate. Oh, yeah. For those of you that are able to meditate and quiet the mind down, at least for a few minutes, right? You know how hard it is in the beginning. Frustrating, right? Thought comes up, let it go. Thought comes up, let it go. I've had suggestions from my friends out there that says, hey, do this chat, or, this, listen to the back of the throat. And, I wasn't really having any of it. I was looking for absolute, complete silence with focus on nothing. And that was hard. But it happened slowly, right? It took me 6 or 7 days of meditation for me to finally get to the point where about 7 or 8 minutes into it, I had calmed down enough to allow the silence. And of course, it doesn't stay like that, right? You'll get a few seconds or a few minutes, and then it's back to the noise. But yes, meditation. And I got to tell you, when I come out of that quiet meditation, I am so blissful, relaxed, a state that I really hadn't known before, at least in that capacity. And I wasn't asking any questions. So previous to this, right, I would drop in and say, hey, tell me about this, show me this. And sometimes they would answer. Most of the time they wouldn't. But now it was just clear. I already mentioned they had me back to vegan, and they have me on this massive detox. And it's not so, I mean, it is kind of detoxing the organs, but they needed me to detox at the cellular level. They needed all of the obstructions around the cells removed, right? This meant very, very clean diet, a lot of spirulina, I'm pronouncing it wrong. Chloria, I'm pronouncing it wrong. You know, the vegan food, very lightweight. You know, most everything was a liquid. Lots and lots of water, lemon water. And when I would go out for food or whatever, I was always getting a green drink, was again another detox. And I kind of knew why they were doing it, but I didn't quite understand. Again, you know, at that time, while I'm getting information, I'm coming up on this great reset. And the closer you get to these large spiritual consciousness events in our life, the quieter things get, the less chatter, the less information, right? And you start questioning, well, what's going on? Why aren't you talking to me? Well, that's what was happening. So, well, you know, I was told by Patricia Walls, she's like, listen, she says, I told you this 3 times. She says, you're supposed to go to the Mayan ruins. So I went to the Mayan ruins, and that was, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday because that was the day after Bufo. And I went there, and she's like, there's downloads waiting for you. So what's nice about the summertime beyond the heat is that you're not supposed to have the crowds of people, you know, at the, places, if you will, the Tulum ruins. By the way, the ruins are about 2 miles from me. You know, by ATV, it's like 12 minutes. But there were thousands of people there. And there was no place to sit, no place to meditate. None of that was going to happen. But what the National Park Service did is they basically put a hole in the wall surrounding the ruins. So the word Tulum, by the way, translates to the word wall. So as I'm walking through this wall, which is probably 20 feet long, I start seeing the Mayans, right? Some Aztecs are telling me now. And they start downloading me. So my head's hurting as I'm walking through this. And I'm getting ready to, receive whatever I needed to receive. And he's like, nope. And they show me this jar and they put it on the shelf. They say, you're not ready for the information we're going to unpack, which I thought was interesting. Here I am. I showed up, but I showed up just a little bit early. I will share a hint. Don't hire the guys to walk you around the ruins. Tag along with somebody. There were such large groups around all of these guys that were telling you about all the ruins. You just needed to hang out with them. The one thing they did tell me as I'm walking through is that Tulum, or the ruins, are where the gods came to vacation and to instruct and teach. Now, they didn't provide me any details, but at the end of the day, I'll take it. Now, when I was in Sedona back in November, all the sacred sites I went to, I got downloads, right? I saw the ET ships, I saw the fairies, I saw the giants. My friend Karen's on the phone. She knows what I'm talking about. I saw all that, right? And I was able to get confirmation from the folks I was with of the things that were happening, but nope, not this time. And by the way, I find it quite interesting that in the past 6 months, 7 months, right? I've been to Sedona, Mount Shasta, and now Tulum. Would never have imagined that last year. Never. So here I am, right? What do? And I'm looking for consciousness activities to do. Right? Give me some yoga, give me something, right? I'm going stir crazy. And so I come across this breath work the other day, and so I reach out, and there's, WhatsApp chats, reach out, it says, hey, breath work, I really haven't done it. I'm an ex-smoker, God knows how many years, and I'm worried, right? I'm worried I'm going to pass out. I'm worried, whatever the case is, and then the lady assured me, she's like, you know what? She says, I've got you. And she was American, now a Mexican citizen, but she's been here for 9 years. So I show up, got lost, showed up, and I get ready to do the breath work, and she kind of instructs me in what to do and not to do. Just really, really easy stuff. And by the way, huge fan, loved it. So meanwhile, I'm beginning the breath work, and if you guys have done breath work, you'll notice perhaps that you start getting these tingles in the body, pins and needles, tingles. And I equate it to like an over oxygenation of the blood. I mean, listen, I'm not a doctor, whatever that says, but this is just me. I don't really know what's happening, and I don't need to know necessarily, right? But this starts moving through my hands, up to my elbows, through my feet, up to my knees, and it was intense. Very, very intense. And at the time, the team had told me that 3 of the 22 had anchored in. I'm like, wow, progress, super cool. I'm on track. I've got what I've got, happening. I later found out today, actually, they helped me understand what they meant. 3 more walk-ins came in during the breath work, and those 3 left right after the Kambo ceremony. They basically came in to hold space and to help recalibrate me for the Bufo. I thought that was really, really interesting. But, I get done, and the lady's like, there were 6 of us total, right? 5 ladies and myself. And I could hear a couple of the girls crying during the breath work, when I was conscious, when I wasn't totally in that thing. And, I could hear the struggle they were going through. And I said, yeah, I said, I want to share my story. I said, but I want to do it at the end, right? I don't want to ruin anybody's stuff. And most of them didn't talk. The one lady next to me said, yeah, I got this pain in the leg. And I looked up at the lady and said, I know what it is. And well, I gotta tell you what, you ever had your hand slapped? I had my hand slapped. Don't ever show up to somebody else's event and offer help. It's so unprofessional. And I apologized up and down the wall. And it was an incredible lesson to learn, right? Hold space. You don't always need to be there. But at the end, I shared my story of, kind of a little bit about who I am and what just took place. And I'm excited because I had the most incredible experience, but nobody else had that experience. They were working through the things I needed to work through. But I don't have trauma in the body. And I know that for a fact after everything that just took place. So, I tell my story, and the girl on the right, she says, well, aren't you special? And she had this tone in her, this tone. And I felt that big. Here I am, sharing with these people how excited I am about what just took place and what I'm here for. And I'm just throwing it out there, right? You guys know, on these sessions, I kind of get a little animated and excited about this journey. And wow, she knocked me so far off this beautiful place I was at that I won't go back to that breath work now. Because, I realized that sometimes, again, you just have to hold space, and that, words hurt. And I'm like, how can that be? How can somebody's one word, you're so special, or you're special, hurt me so much? And it's because I don't want to be special. I wasn't there to be special. I'm not here to be special. I'm not here for you guys to be special. I am here to do my job. Right? Period. So, I had to reach out to, phone a friend, right? And she helped explain to me what had taken place behind the scenes at the energetic level. I'm like, oh, well, that totally makes sense. For those of you who go through these level ups, and we're just going to use level ups, I don't have a better word. For me, anytime big things happen, not only does my team go quiet, but I get attacked. I don't mean necessarily in the physical, energetically. My body will start having strange pains where I can't walk. My elbow began hurting 3 or 4 days before the Bufo, to the point where I almost went to the, I don't know where the ER is at, but you can imagine how much discomfort I was. I had to call a friend. She's like, yeah, she says, they're attacking you. Nobody specifically was attacking me. It was just the energy, trying to knock me down. And the same thing with that girl. Those words carry a certain frequency that was designed to knock me off the frequency. And it worked for a day or two. So I just like to share, full disclosure, words do hurt, but it's how we react to it and how we move through it that's most important. So what now? So now I'm looking on the internet saying, geez, what's next? What's next? What I got to do next, And I see Bufo and Kambo. Now, I was supposed to do a Kambo ceremony before I went to Alapa, and all that had fallen through, not to anything of me, but I actually know why it had fallen through in retrospect. So for those of you who don't know what Kambo is, it is the poison of a tree frog that I believe lives like 30 feet in the air or something like that. Like, it's a really big deal to harvest this poison, this toxin, whatever you may call it. And what it's designed to do is, when it's applied, it goes into the cellular system and really detoxes your cell, your body rapidly. All right, and emotions and all of this. And to do this, they burn 5 holes, in my case, 5 holes in my arm with little incense or whatever they were burning with it, right? They put a bucket in front of you. They make you drink 2 liters of water. Let me tell you something. 2-liter water, I don't know what the math is, but that was a gallon of water. I don't care what anybody says. It was so much water. And they make you drink it in like 5 to 7 months, like drink, drink, drink. I literally couldn't drink anymore. And then they applied the poison. Now, for those of you that have done it, you might purge violently, right? Or you might resist the purging. And then the after effects of the emotions, the holy shit, what just happened. But that's not what took place for me. So I had to force myself to purge. And, you can just imagine what that might look like. And they encouraged me. They're like, listen, you need to make yourself puke in order for this process to work. And I did. For me, the experience was nothing more than a bad night of drinking in my 20s. And I know that sounds minimalistic, but it was just a bunch of purging for me. There's no emotions that came up. There are no stories. There was no heartache. There was nothing attached to it. Nothing. So I sit there for about 2 hours and had just a little bit of electrolyte and a little bit of water, which they encourage, like, don't drink a lot because you're going to do Kambo next. And by the way, apparently Kambo and Bufo on the same day are not necessarily recommended, right? Like, I had told some people I'm doing these in the same day, and their eyes kind of got perplexed, like, the same day? I'm like, yeah, what's the problem? Like, I'm totally ignorant, right? This is stuff I don't do. I did ayahuasca in Orlando a couple years ago, and it took me 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, I had to write music, right? I had the exact diet they told me to, down to each day, do this, each day, do this. And I was damn determined to do the ayahuasca and not purge or have these reactions that I had been reading about. And my ayahuasca ceremony was incredible. Yes, hallucinations, is how you pronounce it. But by the way, I do not like. I avoid, not my thing, never has been, never will be. And for me to step up back, 2 or 3 years ago was a big deal. But here I am, right, facing a potential another hallucinogen. Didn't faze me. At this time, I had completely surrendered. I had learned the lesson about the apartment. I had learned the lesson about Shasta with that road, right? And I knew I was here to surrender. And I knew this was a big moment, but I didn't know what it was. So let me explain to the best or worst of my ability what Bufo is. So Bufo is also a toad poison, and I don't know the name of the toad, right? I don't research too much, but it contains something called 5-DEMO-DMT. Forget, I know I totally chopped that up, but the nickname is the God molecule. And from what I was reading, the God molecule is the chemical that is released at birth and at the moment of death in the body. So I'm reading about this. This is a couple days before, right? And I'm reading, they're saying this is when a lot of people experience an ego death. I'm like, oh, an ego death. Well, I want that, right? Don't we all fight with the ego? Yeah, let's make that happen. And, I talked to some friends who had done it. And they're like, listen, they said the Bufo was the most intense thing they've ever experienced. Now, these people I have talked to are not amateurs, right? They've done these things, they've done other things. And like they said it was the most wildest thing. And their reactions to the Bufo were pretty intense, from throwing up, from thinking they're throwing up, my friend, to other ones, and my other friend who's potentially on the line, running out and falling in the mud or something like that. I don't remember exactly the stories, but these people are having reactions to this, right? Like serious, oh my God, moments. And so this is really a moment of reflection for a lot of folks, a moment of awareness, a moment where they see to their experience the other side. Let's just call it the other side. So you would think that I'd be terrified, but I wasn't. There wasn't an ounce of anxiety in me, or nervousness, or concern, or questions, nothing. So we're sitting there in this teepee, right? This really, really large teepee. And, there's two facilitators there, and they take you through a practice run, right? You got to do some box breathing, count this many times, whatever times. And then, they hold the pipe and they say, listen, we're going to hold it for you. You just have to breathe, breathe, breathe. And on the last breath, inhale deep, and then we'll lay you down. We go. Okay, I got this. Easy peasy, right? Again, you would think that I'd be nervous as shit. Like, oh my God, it's time. It's happening right now. Nothing. So I do the DMT or the Bufo. And, about 12 seconds into it, they lay me down. I'm actually feeling it right now. They lay me down and it starts. Holy shit, was it fast. Fractals of light everywhere, not hallucinogens. Like there was no in between. It was now. And the next thing I know, I absolutely lose track of everything. Don't even know I exist. And I say that very, very seriously. There's just no words to describe what happened. I was gone 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I have a video. I didn't actually time it, but it was 10 or 15 minutes. And of that, I remember nothing. Absolute peace. And I'm looking at my video and I'm laying down and I've got my hands out. I didn't twitch once. Didn't have a reaction once. So when I came through, the only word I can get out of my mouth was wow. Now it's still happening, but now I'm to the point where I can I have an awareness of my surroundings, barely an awareness of my surroundings. And I see them grab my ego, two of my guides, two of my team members, and walk him over to the other side. And he was stubborn. Like he's looking back at me. I don't want to go. Right. And I clearly remember this. Now my ego's not gone. but they giggle and they said they took him on a re-education journey on his role going forward in the body, right? And I thought that was really, really interesting. As the minutes passed, I start getting downloads, right? I start getting information. And by the way, my whole body at this time was, I felt like I was floating. I had, I talked earlier about the breath work, those tingles in the body. The same thing happened with the Kambo. My fists felt like they were, 12 inches wide with the amount of energy flowing through them all the way up to my elbow. But the Bufo was the entire body. If you've been following my journey, you'll know back in December of 21, I think it was, I had my first ET experience with the Craigs. And at that point, they started modifying the DNA in the cells of my body. And I would have tingles on my face and in my body. And I would always talk about this, right? I would always tell you that if I just stood still or I lay down, that these tingles would creep over my body. And it was the most blissful thing. This was not the same thing. It was, but the intensity was 1,000 times greater. Some of the messages that they gave me. Let me explain one more thing. As my eyes were laying there closed, I could see the inside of the tent. And I could see all 22 of the walk-ins in the tent with me, sitting down, Indian style, if you will. I guess that's what we'd call it. 21 of the 22 were semi-transparent. But the one to my immediate right was full-blown 3D material. I could not have told you the difference. I opened my eyes the first time and I saw him. Like, I wanted to reach out and hug him, but I couldn't move my body yet. And then as I closed my eyes, because they told me to stop talking. My team, they told me to stop talking, just give it a second, which I did. But I could still see him. They told me a couple of things. So, like, one, the ability to see these things in the 3D is going to start happening for me. Now, I knew this was going to happen, where things will be seen that are unseen. So basically, I'm being recalibrated to see different frequencies. That's the way to say it. There's no other way for me to explain it, right? But I've known this for almost a year, and I've been asking for it, and they told me it was already in my body. Stop asking, leave this alone. I said, all right. But it happened. It absolutely happened. They told me that the 10, 15 minutes that I was gone, I had traversed the beginning of me, which was the primordial force, the goo, through the Elohim, through the archangels, and all the way up to now, right? Billions of years took place for me in those 10 or 15 minutes. And all the information that I was going to need in this lifetime for this journey had been downloaded. And I was also reorientated at the soul level for this next version of my journey, this next piece, right? I remember nothing. They kept putting their finger over my mouth, the one on my right, and they're like, shh, stop talking. Because I had my recorder going. So not only did I have video happening, but I had an audio recorder right by my head, because you know what? I see something, I say something. I'm going to remember this because I always forget. So they kept telling me quiet. So they told me the numbness in my body, the tingles, was them. It has always been them. These are very high frequency energies that have now merged into the cellular structure of my body, and they are elevating my frequency rapidly. I mean, there's no more child's play. There's no more warm up. There's no nothing. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. A couple of other messages that came through. My 24th chromosome's online and being calibrated with the other 23. Now, for those of you who know or don't know, rumor has it we have 23 chromosomes, but if you Google it, half the sites will tell you there's 24, the other half will tell you there's 23. I've always known I've had 24, but they told me the 24th was unseeable in the physical. It was only in the etheric, but now it's online in the physical. I don't know what that means just yet. I have an inclination, but my team's like, all that will come later. So that was one of the messages I got. All my gifts, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to need to use for the next, whatever the time that is anchored into my body. One of the most interesting things that I still have a hard time grappling with is they said, and I almost verbatim, they said, everything that I have done for healing, for gifts, was nothing but the sniff of the aroma of what's cooking. It was a taste test, not even a taste test. It was just the smell of what's about to take place. And they said, soon I'll be able to see the recipe. And they were kind of joking. And the reason they use that analogy is because, yes, I'm trying to learn how to cook. But all of these testimonials, right? All these healings, all these things that have taken place so far, which, if you've had the experience, you've had an experience. Just a taste. Just an absolute taste. I felt all the energy from Gaia move into my body almost at once. Right? They told me 3 days for integration. They told me in about 14 days from the ceremony that the living library will come online. And what I mean by the living library come online, you guys know that I talk to the living library, I take you guys in there, but this is different. Even though I've been in the living library, I get breadcrumbs of stuff. And this is what changes. So apparently at night when I astral travel, and I don't know this, I was told this from Sheila Seppi, she's like, all I do is spend all my time in the living library reading and learning. And in 14 days, that information I will begin unpacking intensely. And they're literally showing me right now, grabbing my head and my hair, almost in incredibly pain as these downloads begin unpacking. Now, why 14 days? Because everything that happens from this point forward has to happen in a certain order. Tomorrow, they begin me on another thing, another gift, which I'm not going to talk about today. When it comes online, right? I talk about things as they arrive. But when that settles in, then they move on to the living library. So what happened afterwards, right? So Saturday, I go to the ruins and I get back and I'm depressed. I'm in tears. I'm lonely, right? I'm having this, well, where'd this come from? Right? But then I dip down and then I dip back up. I dip down and dip back up. And my team's still quiet. I'm like, what the hell is all this for if you're not even going to talk to me? So I get the message on Monday. Well, I got it on Sunday night. They're like, listen, tomorrow you're going to meditate for 5 hours. I'm like, what? 5 hours? I'm like, come on. I'm like, you know what? Fine. I said, I literally have nothing to do. I said, whatever, I can sit in a chair for 5 hours. Well, yeah. That was not what I expected. So I sat in the chair for about 45 minutes, got quiet, and these waves of energy went through my body. They were so intense. They were as intense as it was in Bufo. Now, the facilitators for the Bufo said, listen, you might have reoccurrences, you might have another experiences, just be aware, ground. And I'm thinking, wow, was this just an experience? My team's like, no, not at all. So I had to pop out of that meditation about 44 minutes into it, I think it was, because I thought I was going to fall out of the chair. I'm in absolute lost control of the body. So I stand up and I realize I actually was having a hard time walking. And the way I explained it to a friend is, if you can imagine coming out of anesthesia, right, where if you could walk, it would be slow, like a turtle, and methodical, right? And it took me, I don't know how many minutes to cross the room, and I'm hanging on to stuff. Not that I thought I was going to fall, but I, I can't explain it. It was the most freaky thing to realize a meditation had just impacted me the way it did. And again, they're like, this is us moving into the body. They're like, listen, you have 4 more hours of this. So now I'm laying down in the bed, right? Because there's no damn way I'm going to be able to do this in a chair thinking I'm going to fall out. And not only did I lay in the bed, I laid in the middle of this massive king size bed. I'm like, I'm not going to roll off the bed either. And holy shit, wave after wave came through the body. And I could feel myself, my consciousness tapping the ceiling. So imagine being able to raise the consciousness or the frequency all the way to that point where that if you went past that line, you were crossed over. In Bufo, that line didn't exist. I went over. But right now, it existed. And every time I touched it, I would snap out of it and the energy would go down, clear my mind. And I just had to do nothing. And another wave would hit me. The intensity was off the wall. And they did this for 5 hours. And I had little breaks in between because I had to come back into the body just to animate because it was that intense. So you would have thought that'd be it. Grab a cold shower, walk out in nature. No, it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. Just before this podcast, I thought I was going to pass out 10 or 15 minutes before we started. I had a healing today on a young lady. It was an acne thing, right? Typically it would have been, 5 minutes or whatever the case is. And I jump in to do the healing and it was hard. I'm like, what is this? And I asked afterwards and they said that everything that I had done, let's call it a technique. It's called a tool in the tool belt. They said everything that I had done was now antiquated. They said those healing frequencies are now no longer useful because of the new frequency that I'm resonating at. I'm like, oh, great. They said you could have shared with that before because now I got no time. I have another session coming up and, about a half hour after that. But let me tell you something. What happened in that session was 100% clear cognizant. I knew everything about that girl before she asked the question. I knew exactly what was happening, the full story, the animation of everything that happened in the past life, and the exact reason why she wouldn't let go in this life. And she was in tears. And I worked on the husband because they weren't of a typical spiritual back. They don't have our consciousness day to day, everything, right? But they showed up. Amazing, right? And I had to kind of explain to him what I was, and and I worked on the husband's knee, which will be fine another day and a half. As soon as he realizes that it's healed, he'll release the pain. But I'm like, wow. But I nearly passed out. The moment I started working on that lady, I had to grab the table. I couldn't believe it. I never ever had the experience like that before. Now, I had a healing about 2 hours after that, and my team said, listen, this time we don't want you to do anything. I'm like, okay, well, I trust, right? I just learned how to trust. And this time they showed me this particular person, and they showed me the being that was preventing her particular situation from the healing from occurring of her situation. And it was this golden liquid light, like the old Terminator movie, that liquid silver guy in Terminator, kind of the same thing, but it was a gold and copper tone. And it absolutely refused to allow this healing to take place. So I'm talking to it with light language and I'm doing nothing now. And my team does the work. And what happened is I can see me in the video or the representation of me. And popping out of me was another liquid light being. And when her being saw mine, it dropped down to one knee, had both hands on the ground, its head fully down, refused to look at this golden being that has stepped out of me. Basically, it was a commander, whatever that might mean, of that particular entity. And the entity said, "You're done, mission over, it's time to leave." And that's exactly what happened. Okay. Now, I asked the team, I says, "What was that?" I says, "Was that one of the 22?" They said, "No, not all." So I'm what is called a hollow bone. I don't understand that. I'm learning. But there's a tunnel in me that goes all the way up to whatever. And when something's needed, that energy will come down, and it's vetted, by the way, right? No bad guys allowed in the club. Will come down and move through me and do the job and then move out or deposit a tool in the tool belt. And that's exactly what they showed me. So not only that, but as this person's asking me questions about, and she's very conscious, by the way, very spiritual, energy worker, right? She's totally tapped in. And as she's asking me some questions, they're giving me full on everything about what needs to be said, what she needs to do, how long it's going to take, everything. And right now, my team, as of yesterday, midday Monday, right after these energies started in me, they are full on dialogue. Everything shifted. Every single thing has shifted. Everything I've been waiting for, the reset has occurred, has absolutely occurred. So, wow, I'm glad I got through all that. Guys, that's what the updates are. And I have no idea what happened in the chat. Everything was closed on my side. I was just kind of reading from the script, hoping that I actually stayed conscious. And I did. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take some water. Kim, you want to come back on and add any comments? I know you didn't interrupt me. What was up with that? I thought you were going to interrupt me.
It was so much. And
Yeah.
I have to say, I was so interested in everything. I wanted to hear the next thing. I do have some questions here, and one of them is really good because it's something that we kind of hear about. We're not sure. So the question from Mackenzie, and this is good. She's got a couple of them, but the first one is, and I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
I heard that vegan is good during development as your inner being gets confused when you eat animal due to their consciousness. So if you're vegan, then you're not adding any outside consciousness, and your spiritual development can progress faster. Is this statement correct?
It's absolutely correct, but it's not the reason that he had to go through it. He simply needed to go through it to stay as clean and as light as possible. We didn't want to put him on another diet. He actually refused to go on the diet. He's still stubborn. But the vegan, he was agreeing to, right? Otherwise, we would have starved him for 3 or 4 days as this process occurred. So we titrated him and waited, almost 10 days into the trip before we began this. But yes, you're accurate and true. The other consciousness from that will impact your spiritual journey. But we do want to caution, it is minimal, minimal. We feel that the most important thing is for you to feed the body as it needs to be fed. Do not starve the body to pursue your spiritual journey. It is not necessary. It is your intent. It is where you're going that is more important than the actual food in many cases.
Very good advice. Thank you. Very good. Then the next one is, so thank you, Mackenzie. That's an excellent question. I've often wondered. Also, did your team select Tulum due to it having less, in parentheses, noise pollution, meaning there are less people, though, so there is less energy around, thoughts in the air, so your team can heal you faster? Is this also correct?
This is a familiar place for us. We've actually been here many, many, many times. We've taken many people here to do this type of work, different, but this type of work. Yes, as you all know, you can read it. It sits on a vortex. There's a lot of energy that flows through this. This was allowing us to magnetize or amplify what needed to happen to him. It allowed his body to stabilize enough so that we could crank it up to 11 instead of 10. And yes, of course, This is me talking now. Of course, it was isolation and quiet as well. By the way, I do want to make a real comment here. Mel, you messaged me regarding Barbara Bloom. I did meet her. Tell her to reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation. Thank you. Go ahead, Kim. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
So I want to understand this correctly. The first one you did was the Bufo.
No,
With
Kambo.
you did the Kambo first.
Kambo, and then 2 hours later, the Buffo, the Bufo.
The Bufo. So the Kambo, so the Bufo is the God miracle. Say, what is the Kambo again? And why did
Kambo is to detox the cells in the body,
okay, that's the
purge emotions, to purge the things that are trapped, right? So they were actually using the Kambo to open everything up in the body, right? And to do that before everything kind of closed back up. So while it was still open, 2 hours later, they came in and anchored into the body. It was an easier path for them to do both in the same day. And I say them, the team.
So if I understand this correctly, the first one you did was a Kambo, and I have notes here, so that's why I keep looking over. And that one, was the cell detox. And I think about like with me as a person, I'm always periodically trying to do detoxes and all kinds of stuff to help my body. And when you say the cellular level like that, is that something where any one of us, it would be of benefit to help us with our body? Because we're, a lot of us, and I say us, I mean me and some people not. We want to be healthy, and we're battling processed food and everything every day. And so
I want to interrupt you. They want you to understand that this really is a spiritual detox. They don't recommend it just because you're wanting to do detox. Okay. Now, specifically for you, they say you'll be a very, very brave woman if you were to do it right now. All right. You would survive, but you would have a lot of reactions. You would have a lot of emotions coming up. You would have a lot of integration and processing later. It would help you on your journey, but do not do this because you think it's a detox item that you need to check the box, this pill, that pill. No.
That's what I'm asking is if someone's thinking in that way, both of these items are very, spiritual at the spiritual level, because as I'm going through my journey and my process, one of the things is, my physical self being the physical healing, but then there's spiritual healing.
It's spiritual. I mean, yes, it's the chemical, but it's spiritual, right? It's getting rid of those emotions that are trapped is another way to say this in a very, very intense way.
Yes. So you said something about in the arm, there was five.
Let's see if I can show you real quick. And I think I had a picture about that, right?
Yeah. So that is where now the cell detox, the Kambu, is that the frog poison? Is that
they're both a frog toxin or a poison, right?
Okay.
They're just different. They're just different. One's a frog, one's a toad, whatever. That's my understanding. I gotta tell you, Google it.
Okay. And so one of them was in the arm and the other one you drank, right?
No, the other one you smoked.
Oh, smoke. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting.
The Bufo you smoked.
Okay. And so that's why the different ones come through, and then it's the spiritual journey. So if you think about the spiritual journey, the one with the cell detox helped you with the other one with the spiritual get to the next level with the 22.
Yeah, it was basically they opened up a way for them to access quickly. Okay, without the Campbell, it would have happened, but it would have been longer for them to integrate. Monday wouldn't have happened like it did, and I wouldn't be feeling like I did right now. I'd still be building my frequencies up, but they were able to open that up, basically open the cells up. The cells like, I got no protection, metaphorically, of course, right?
Right.
And they were able to finally come in after 6 years.
Okay. And this is something too that it sounds like it's not like one and done and then that's your event. You're actually experiencing it, days later, where you're still having the integrations, you're still having the spiritual journey, you're still, so happy.
Yeah. So remember, this isn't one and done, right? This isn't let me have the experience and let it wean off, move along. This is literally shifting the frequency of everything in my body. All right. And what's happening here is the body itself has to adjust to this new resonance, this new frequency. This is why I'm having the almost passing out moments. This is why I'm tingling and numb. It's going to stabilize. And it's not that stabilization means, the high is done. Now you're coming down. Because remember, it was 10 or 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. It is literally, I'm becoming normalized to this new frequency. The physical body is becoming normalized to all 22 fully engaged. And I'll feel better in a while.
I hope so. Okay, so this is great. And then it's also changing like the sessions you're doing. It sounds like you talked about this young lady, how you um already knew stuff and you were already helping and just
I always kind of know things, right? But I ask a question, what is going on here? What is going on there? And sometimes they tell me or they just fragment it. But when I'm in the session with the client, that's when I get information, but it doesn't necessarily mean it comes easy. And sometimes I struggle, but holy shit, this was another level. This was like, I just knew, didn't even have to ask the question. So just,
it's
just,
amazing.
wow, yeah, just different, right?
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any questions. Does anyone else have any more questions or want to raise their hand or anything? Oh, Trish
Yeah.
has a good question. What's next?
What? Are you guys ready for the freebie, aren't you? Everyone shake their head. Yes, yes, we are. So tonight you're going to experience it. It's going to be about 10 minutes long. There'll be no guided visualizations. Okay. No work to do. They just want you to close your eyes. They just want you to drop in and relax. It's going to be a lot of light language and a lot of frequencies flowing through the body. And like I tell everyone, if you have an experience and you want to share, pop it in the chat window, right? This is new. I mean, not the light language isn't new, but this is a new frequency. All right. So if you guys are all ready, give me let me step out of the way. Nialare tiatare nishri niatare kapoyatare nitare tiatare kati titi to brokoto kadishri dari gadari nitiri nitari kashkati rubrikatori kadari kadari katorbrikotosh kadari kabarkadari katoria daria dea ariandoria nitari 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 abarkati tari kadishi kidi kidi kubrikotish kidi 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 rubrikatori kadari subrikatori kadari kadari katoshri kadari kadari kashrio Shkoni andare ande sto per andare ti shikati to ya mai ni dani ni de la di go mo ani ni ko bo ani ta ani che ni ta ni na no mo ni ani ka dari ka di chupri ko dari dari di rest ka tori amri dari di de chupri ko josh kri ko chupri no ya mani ko mo ni no shkri di ti shikati ko bari ko josh kri di shria ni jo bari dari ko bari tori pa ya dari ka di te ka josh kri dari ya mani na no shria ko ni do anda ke ni ai ko yo do ni ta ndo mo po ka yo ko ka ko apa ke da ke to mi ti ko ke ke dia ya ko ni ta ko आज के दुपरी का नींद तरी ती ती कुछ प्रिया नींद तरी नो मने दारी को ओ तो चलिया तरी नींद आशिक नींद तरी चलिया तरी तारी के दुश को दुपरी को कुछ ما كاتي كاشي تي اتش اتش شو 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 بدي سين سيدي ابي توري تا كا ونتيا اري تا دش كدو دي تي اما يعني مش انت تشكدي تشديو اوبكو كتي او شو يا بوشيا او اني اني تو ابو كو اتو دي كو انش كتو ني تاري شريتو اني تاري تي اتا شو تو جو تو تشي كو شو Maria Nia Taria Nia Nia Dania Nia Dania Nia Taria Nia Taria Nia Taria Nia Toria Monia Nia Toria Taria 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 Tia Taria Tia Taria Toria Porio Toria Tia Tarkata Papa Varia Taria Aya Nia Taria Nia Taria Tia Toria Toria Tia Taria Dishri Bria Tia Nia Taria Nia Taria Nia Sirika Dania Tia Naria Cheria Naria Dishkria Krika Darka Niet Krigan Krika Gargoria Diet Krikan Krian Toria Naria Gurikushkri. Şuraya. Sia ni ko du ni tingin ni tunu mo mga niya ni ali digut ni no ni ali ni siri ni siri no ni man siri dati ni mo no pa ali niya sinya mo ni opo na ni ala ni kusutu mo yun ni na din na normal ni sekretar ka dito rin para ko dito kunu tikni dekunu niata ni kubu kuki alia muni no ole ni a ole anish Shariatoria tia niataria mia nia noria bania nia alia niataria ti Shariatoria topa poya shu eba ni ti ta mo ale ni shi ni tu puri tu shri tu ni ti atari ta ni no mo ni te di ta asia shu mo ni ale ni ta di ni ale ni no mo tu shri ta mo bo ya ya ni ale ni tu shri ni ta ni si ni ale ni ta ni to ka to shi kitu Pikoto motote atiata Pushukutu mualia di shadi Transmission delivered. Again, if there's any experiences, just pop them in the chat room. You can come out when you're ready. I gotta tell you, I witnessed the whole thing. Like I'm watching my mouth. I'm listening to the tones. But all that energy that was coursing through the body, I actually felt like I could rest while that was happening. It was like such a physical relief for me for that to happen. So thank you, Mackenzie. Kim, you can read these. I'll let you do your thing. But I really enjoy feedback, guys. It helps to human me.
Trish said chills. I did put on there the healing protocol. Mackenzie says, thank you so much. My leg pain is gone. I feel amazing. Oh goodness. Heather says it's going really fast. Heather says, feel so calm after that. I released through yawn and tears. Sarah says, colors became brighter. Very nice. Jenny, very intense. I do light language as well. I wanted to join in. Nikki says, I miss you.
Thanks, sweetie. Love you. Talk to you tomorrow, honey. Lots more details for you.
Stacy says, energy still coming in. Another Stacy said had chills on the face and arms. Trish says this was very different, Ken. Kathy says the top of my head had energy moving back and forth. My body was spinning in a clockwise motion. Wow. Liza said felt a peaceful roundedness. Carrie says I thought a thought that came in for me was feeling playful. Okay. Cheryl says, I was sitting in a chair, but my breathing changed and my hands became very active, lightheaded. Romy says, a beautiful intensity. Wow. Dina says, felt like threading in my brain, energy waves with celestial surgeons. I won't know what exactly right now. We'll show later is what I feel.
Yeah.
Indigo says, downloads very intense. Larissa says, thank you very much. Diana says, tingles and face tickles. Leah, I felt a waterfall wash over me. Very nice. Sarah, wildly active, says, I'm smiling so big right now. Cece says, so very different. So there's a lot of comments. Thank you, everyone. Jan says, so tired during your talk and had to close my eyes. Now relaxed and wide awake. Dina says, and also new energies put into the palms of my hands in addition to the brain threading. Okay. Stacy says, yes, very nice. Stacy says, big downloads came in as well as a bunch of energy was directed to my heart. Rona says, my whole body heated up and sweating intensely. Wow. Um, Patty says, have to go now. Much gratitude, and we'll send feedback later. Remember, you are so loved. Um,
Okay.
yes. Jax, let me see here. Mel says, wow, that was amazing. Very light and flowing energy in the light language near the end. I felt like there was a message given especially to me, and I responded, but I can't understand what you're telling me.
And it was directly for you. So listen, everyone gets exactly what they need, right? There's no script. There's, even though they say it's to bring more human in or whatever the message was earlier, everyone gets exactly what they need, and I won't know what it is unless it's a one-on-one session.
Oh. Sandra says, thank you very much. Felt the area where my tooth was being pulled being worked on. Also wanted to join in with light language and saw a planet. Very nice. No information about it. Much appreciated for your efforts, energy, and love. Many hugs. Jack W says, thank you. Stacy has a bunch of emojis. Cecilia says, what is the radial distance you can expand to now during the healing?
So let's stop there for a second.
Yes,
He's
it's a
talking
great.
about that field, excuse me, around me. And since Yalapa, it's been about 410, 420 feet, and it's 410 right now. It kind of went up and bumped down a little bit. And I asked the team, what's this about? They're like, listen, she said, even though that field was around you, it was basically being populated with codes and frequencies. They weren't focused on growing it or expanding it. In about a month's time, that field will exponentially increase radically, is exactly what they told me. And it'll be when you walk into the room. And so I will tell you guys where things are going, even though I'm using light language, they're telling me to go ahead and continue. It'll be to the point where you just need to be in the field, whether it be virtually, like this, or in person. And I will be doing less and less talking, and they'll just be doing the work as you show up. So this is what's coming. The healings will be nearly instant in many, many, many cases. So they're like, stay tuned, everyone. They're literally saying, everyone, just stay tuned, just stay tuned. This is a whole nother something to be experienced. So yeah. Anyways, that's them talking.
Lena B says, I very much appreciate your shares. Your honesty opens up vistas for personal change. Big thanks, many blessings. Trish says, I can't wait until Monday. Thank you, Ken.
Mhm.
Thanks, Trish. Heather says, thank you. Terry says, I heard new voices, but just felt relaxed. Love you. Ready to set up a new private with all those new things going on. Maybe we can fix my feet and prolapse organs.
Yeah, so let's connect next week, Terry. I still need some days of integration for what's taken place. Listen, guys, these were the initial feelings, right, as it was coming through, and it all needs to unwind, unfold. Kim put the transformational healing protocol link up there, and could you just pop that on there again?
Yes.
You're going to notice shifts and changes. Remember that, right? You're going to potentially experience the energy trapped in the body that needs to leave, the emotions, let them out, let the tears out. This is no different than my group healings, right? You're going to feel uncomfortable, period. This is healing. And follow the protocol, allow it to happen, allow it to flow through, even if you don't know why. I've had people tell me, listen, for 24 hours, I was depressed. I hated life. I don't even know why. And then poof, it lifted, right? It's how much resistance is in you. So just please understand that is the reaction. And then you'll notice the shift. But, as that happens, send me an email, right? Say, hey, my issue block is now done, or whatever it is. And you don't have to, but I'd be grateful if you did. Thank you.
So we have a couple of more here. Let me go
Yeah.
back. I'm sending the information for you and the protocols and everything for everybody to have it. Trish asked the question, how many other people are undergoing the same process?
Nothing is actually the same. If you want to know how many other folks have similar configurations, there are 10 currently on the planet. Different locations, different purposes, but same configuration. Multiple souls in the body doing very specific things for their, we'll call it community. or their group that were assigned to them to work on. Ken's mission is global, worldwide, billions. So he has a very large tent to fill. I don't know what that's about. So, and it's not that those folks don't either, but it sounds like more regional wherever they're at.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Jan says this is phenomenal. I feel really connected to what is going on here. Thank you. Thanks, Jan. Terry says Randall heard three different voices than before.
No,
Okay.
thanks, Randall. Yeah, I don't know what I heard. Like, remember, they were all popped in. There are other energies that came through for very specific individuals. Their team call in energies into the physical, whatever that is. Well, I could see some, but not a lot, right? So they weren't just me, and that's the thing.
Mary Lee says much gratitude for the healing and for sharing of your experiences. Um, Diana says, wow, Ken, I'm not even sure what to say or think about all you have been through and continue to experience. That's true.
Mhm.
Part of me feels odd believing it, but I do. So amazing. So brave of you to trust and surrender. I hope I can begin to trust and surrender someday. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you,
Thank you.
Diana. Amy says, so grateful to be included on this holy journey with all of you.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah. Rab says, thanks, Ken. Wondering what energy you might have picked up from the ancient Mayan fort in Tulum.
Ditto. Ditto, right? They're like, that's really not relevant or important for him at the moment. Isn't that weird how I say that? It's him at the moment. That's funny how it just comes out like that.
Yeah. Trish says, so in a sense, so in a sense, are you a conduit of a new paradigm? I think
Yeah,
that's what she means. Yeah.
absolutely. And more description around that will come through as the rebranding takes place. So they're going to rebrand my website and everything.
Wow.
As new stuff comes online, everything that's on there now will be replaced. That's my understanding.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I didn't know that. That's news to me.
Yeah.
Leah says, I am grateful and feel blessed to have been guided here. Thank you for your giving and love.
Yeah.
And Cece says this sharing feels so very special. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, right, if you guys are thinking about a session, you should book soon. And it's no joke because, after the August 7th interview, I know folks that have done that, and they've ended up with 150 sessions booked, within a couple days. And my time between the event in Sarasota, moving again, I won't have a lot of availability. So these new energies will come through. And if you can imagine, this right here. So to give you a perspective, this particular podcast I'll be on has about 85,000 subscribers. I have 600, right? So when you put that in perspective, and they're going to get this light language as well, right? So I expect my availability to be almost nilch. I'm not trying to push you. I'm just letting you know, right? So
Great. Well, we've got a couple more that came in. Mackenzie says light language is so beautiful to me, especially when there is a slight singing. Ken, you and your team are such a blessing. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. And thank you, Kimberly, for your great host. You're welcome. I could listen to you, Ken, all day long. Haha. So excited for my journey to keep developing.
so if you have me and Kim in the room, you're going to be listening to Kim all day. You guys think I talk a lot.
Uh, so Heather says I had to take off my headphones. I had to take my headphones off and on, missing much of the call, and I'm pretty pumped that I popped them back on just before the moment for the healing. Wondering how many others you will switch on.
There'll be 45 in my body at the highest number. Okay. So the way this works with me is again, just like I told you in that healing, they'll come in, they'll do their thing, and they'll leave, right? So that process. But some will switch out and others will come in at one point, and this is a point a couple of years from now, I'll have 45 literally resident in the body. And now it'll be seamless. Like I won't have to go through the Bufo. I won't have to go through that experience anymore.
Wow.
45 is a big number. It's a lot of Christmas gifts, Kim.
Oh, wait a minute.
For you, to me.
Okay. Sarah says, thank you for sharing. Mackenzie says, John is amazing. And
Yeah.
Trish says, Kim, you should head to Tulum. And I'm like, yes, I should. Thanks, everyone.
So one more final thing, I will not have an Accelerated Ascension podcast next week. I need to allow things to happen. When information starts flowing, these podcasts will be full of other information, not just my journey, but there'll be information like knowledge sharing, a whole nother, again, setup, and I'll know that when it comes through. There is a group healing next Thursday, if you guys are interested in that. So, okay.
I
And
don't,
yeah,
I,
rebirth. Heather's totally right. Rebirth. I'm literally rebirth. Totally,
yeah,
absolutely spot on, Heather.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, everybody. Listen, love you all. And again, thank you for supporting me in this incredible, wild ride. And share, right? Share the video, share whatever. This is for everyone.
Oh, there's another message,
Oh,
Ken.
yeah. Okay. That might be to you. What's up?
It says Ken needs to go on a next level soul with Alex Ferrari.
Oh,
Um,
that's the other thing, guys. Spread my name to podcasters or events. I'm ready for events in person or virtual. I need your help to connect me to those folks. Use your discernment, right? Just don't blindly, what do they call that? Robo dial your friends. I mean, if there's somebody you think I need to meet, to connect with, to interview with, to go to an event with, it's time. It is time.
yeah. Yep. I just sent it to you, Ken.
Oh
Um,
yeah, well, whoever that was, if they know
that
him,
was,
connect me.
that was Mackenzie Davis.
Oh, thank McKinsey.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I love you all. And we'll keep in touch, right?
Yeah. Bye, everyone.